everyone, and welcome back to Velvet Moments, a space where we don't just watch moments, but try to understand them with clarity, calmness, and honesty. Have you ever seen a moment that is actually very simple, yet suddenly turns into a big theory that feels a bit over the top? As if something ordinary is being pushed into becoming something extraordinary just because of a certain perspective. Episode 2 of Run BTS is a perfect example of this phenomenon. On one side, we're given laughter, chaos, and spontaneous interactions that feel lively and entertaining. But on the other side, there are narratives that try to frame these simple moments into something much deeper, sometimes even going far beyond what's actually there. So the question becomes simple yet important. Was there really something special happening, or are we just seeing what we want to see? In this discussion, we're not going to rush into conclusions. Instead, we'll separate what is actually visible on screen from what exists purely as interpretation. Because sometimes, understanding things as they are is far more interesting than exaggerating them. Let's go back to the beginning. Everything started from a scene that, objectively speaking, was very simple. Taehyung walked into a room where Jungkook was already inside. There was no dramatic build-up, no prior context hinting at something special. It was simply a transition scene, something very common in shows like this. Inside the room, Jungkook was already lying comfortably on the bed. He was focused on his phone, completely immersed in his own world. His body language was neutral. He didn't seem to be waiting for anyone. There was no noticeable change in expression when the door opened, and no emotional reaction when Taehyung entered. It's a small detail, but an important one. Because often, big narratives are built on small details that don't actually have a strong foundation. Taehyung then entered casually, without any striking gestures, without physical interaction, and without meaningful conversation. He simply chose his own bed and lay down. That's it. There was no moment that could objectively be labeled as special. They were just in the same room, nothing more. But this is where things start to get interesting. From this very simple moment, various interpretations began to emerge. Ones that went far beyond what actually happened. Narratives like they slept together started to appear, even though literally that's not what was shown. The room had multiple beds and each of them used their own. There was no physical closeness, no special interaction, and no indication that supports those claims. This isn't about denying interpretations, because in fandom spaces, interpretations are completely normal. But there's a difference between enjoying possibilities and blurring the line between fact and assumption. And this is where the discussion becomes broader. Often the standard of judgment shifts depending on perspective. A very neutral moment can be treated as strong evidence if it fits a certain narrative. But if we apply the same logic consistently, then interactions that are much clearer and more frequent should carry more weight. When we talk about the dynamic between Jungkook and Jimin, what we see is not just one isolated moment, but a pattern. There is continuity. There is consistency. And most importantly, there is a sense of naturalness that's hard to fake. They don't just share space, they share comfort. On multiple occasions, they've been seen close to each other, sometimes even sharing space without any awkwardness. Not in a dramatic or emphasized way, but in a way that feels normal to them. And that's exactly what makes it stand out, because genuine moments rarely need to be highlighted. With Jimin, Jungkook often shows a different side of himself. He appears more relaxed, more open, and more responsive. There are small physical interactions, light touches, consistent closeness, that happen naturally. These gestures may seem simple, but when they occur repeatedly, they form a pattern that's difficult to ignore. It's not one big moment that makes their dynamic feel special, but the accumulation of many small ones. The way they seem to find each other in a crowd. The way they respond without needing words. And most clearly, the comfort between them that doesn't need explanation. It simply speaks for itself. All of this creates a fuller picture, not assumption but observation. In contrast to the earlier scene, which was objectively neutral, interactions between Jungkook and Jimin often carry an additional layer. There's warmth. There's emotional nuance. Sometimes even a playful or slightly teasing side that appears naturally, without needing heavy analysis to feel meaningful. However, it's important to remember, the point of this discussion is not to compare who is more or less. Fandom has space for different perspectives, and that's part of what makes it enjoyable. The issue arises when interpretation turns into justification, and that justification begins to dismiss other dynamics. Comments like "this one feels more real," or "that one seems forced," often don't come from objective facts, but from personal bias. And when we go back to what is actually shown on screen, many of those claims don't have strong support. So let's return to that initial scene. Jungkook is lying on the bed focused on his phone. Taehyung walks in, then lies on another bed. There is no significant interaction. No special moment. The rest is interpretation. Meanwhile, if we look at Jungkook and Jimin's dynamic as a whole, there is much more substance to observe. There is consistency in gestures, repeated closeness, and a level of comfort that doesn't need explanation. And maybe that's where the difference lies. At the end of the day, everyone is free to believe what they want. Interpretation is part of how we enjoy content. But there is also value in distinguishing between reality and perception. Because not every moment carries the same weight. Some moments are simply simple, and that's okay. While others feel deeper, not because they are exaggerated but because they are supported by time, consistency, and natural authenticity. Shifting from that discussion, there's another aspect that's just as fascinating: how BTS continues to demonstrate their power on the global stage. Not only through interactions that always capture attention, but also through consistently impressive musical achievements. This time, the spotlight is on their song "Swim," which has gained major attention on the Billboard Global 200 chart. This isn't just any chart. It measures worldwide popularity based on a combination of streaming and sales across multiple countries. "Swim" debuted at #1 in early April. Already an incredible achievement. But what makes it even more impressive is its consistency. In its first 4 weeks, the song spent 3 weeks at the top. That's not just temporary success. That's dominance. In the middle of constant global music releases and intense competition, maintaining the top position is not easy. Yet "Swim" has remained relevant, widely streamed, and a top choice across platforms. This achievement further strengthens BTS's position as one of the biggest artists in the world today. They don't just follow trends, they set them. Compared to their previous releases, "Swim" is now standing alongside major hits like Dynamite and *Butter. There's even a possibility that it could match, or surpass, those records if this momentum continues. What's even more impressive is that this success isn't limited to one region. The song is also performing strongly in key markets like the United States, proving that BTS's appeal goes far beyond cultural and geographical boundaries. In the end, whether it's a small moment in a quiet room, or a massive achievement on the global stage, there is one common thread connecting it all. Authenticity. Not forced. Not exaggerated. Yet still powerful enough to capture the attention of millions. And maybe that's their greatest strength. Because sometimes the simplest things are the most honest. If you enjoyed this kind of discussion, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Velvet Moments. See you in the next video, Purple Heart.